Welcome to the Mio and MMA podcast on I want to say the first time I have ever been recording on a Tuesday because I was out of town for the UFC St. Louis card. So I didn't get to watch that live. And then Sunday just got really, really busy. Monday got kind of busy with a job interview. And at the end of the day, I watched like half the card Monday night and then half the card Tuesday morning. And now I can finally give you my thoughts. So it's a bit late, and I'm expecting the viewership probably will suffer. But here we go. UFC St. Louis, aka UFC Lewis versus Nascimento. Blanked on his name there for a hot second, which is weird because I just got done watching that fight like, I don't know, 45 minutes ago? The card was pretty good. Let's just do the full rundown of the card overall. Here we go. Derek Lewis, Nascimento, that was grinding at parts, but like mostly was actually pretty fun. Joaquin Buckley versus Ruziboev was pretty fun as well. Carlos Hallberg obliterated Alonzo Metafield. We might as well just cover that one right now. It was basically Metafield rushing in and getting obliterated. That was it. It was a 12-second knockout. There's not really a lot else to say. I guess I'll get this one right out of the way. I've got Hallberg against Anthony Smith because I still have questions about Hallberg's ability to beat somebody who doesn't just fall apart. And Metafield against Bogdan Gushkov because they're both really powerful dudes who like to strike, who can do a little bit of wrestling, and generally speaking have never beaten anyone who can compete with their level of firepower. So that feels like an almost perfect set of booking. So there you go. And then further on down, we continue on rolling to Carlos Diego Ferreira defying time against Mateusz Rombeski. I kind of called that fight, didn't I? I mean, I think I had it something more dynamic, where like it would be like a club and sub sort of situation. But Ferreira went out there and kind of did what I thought he would do, and Rombeski showed improvements, but also showed the weaknesses that I think he has. Alex Caceres versus Sean Woodson. I scored the fight for Caceres, but Woodson picks up the win. I totally understand. It was one of those fights where like Caceres fought the exact game that his opponent wanted, which is what he does. Waldo Cortez Acosta survived Rebels to Spain and kind of grounded him out. Apparently Dana White hated that fight. We'll get into that in a bit. Chase Hooper versus Vyacheslav Borshev and Borshow. I will get that through my head. Slavic Claus. Got Darce choked by Chase Hooper. Esteban Ribovic knocked out Terrence McKinney real quick. Split decision. This was the decision I refuse to forgive. Ricci over Pennington by split decision. No. I'm gonna rip that. I'm gonna rip those judges a new one. Trey Waters versus Billy Goff. Trey Waters winning by decision. Charles Johnson beating Jake Hadley. And the fight that I was probably most wrong about, because I was pretty confident in JJ Aldrich. And if she was gonna lose, I thought it would be something like one big moment of dynamicism, and it wasn't. She just got beat by Veronica Hardy. So, anyways, fights that were like bad, not really any of them. I think they all kind of lived up or exceeded expectations. So in the main event, Derek Lewis took on Rodrigo Nascimento. This fight would have been really, really, really over quickly if Lewis would just not punch his way into the clinch, because he gave Nascimento the clinch and the takedown opportunities that he needed and had success with and put him on the ground. I had Nascimento winning the first two rounds. Very, very, very close. Let's have a look at the UFC stats, shall we? So in round one, Nascimento outlanded him 48-15. Round two, he outlanded him 24-17. 2+ minutes of top control in both of those rounds, mostly working the ground games. Lewis actually landed more significant strikes than Nascimento in the second round, 17-12. So you could possibly get that round to him, but like, I have a really hard time because there was a moment, I think it was in the second round. Yeah, it was, where Derek Lewis goes for a trip takedown, ends up just basically ending up on all fours and getting Nascimento put right on his back. I can't reward that. I can't. I felt Derek Lewis's corner's pain because they were begging him to like keep it out at range and make this a striking match, and he just could not or would not. And I don't even really want to give credit to Nascimento because I don't think he was really the guy. I don't think it was his like pressure or, well, a couple times it was. But I think a lot of it was just Lewis punching his way in the clinch. And yeah. Anyways, Lewis gets the switch kick in the second round or third round. He gets counter when he goes for it again, but then he just like plugs Nascimento and puts him down pounds about. So, the typical Derek Lewis performance where like he has obvious knockout power that you have never seen before, and he's a destroyer of worlds, and he's incredibly strong, but my God, is there just not really all that much to his game? And there's not a lot of adaptability to his game. Like he will fight basically everyone the exact same way, and it doesn't really matter what their strengths are. And I knew that coming in. But I picked Lewis because I'm like, Nascimento's not really a finisher and not really powerful. They were trying to point out that Nascimento was a finisher. It was Lorosenko particularly like emphasizing those were the first decisions of his career. He's finished everyone before that. Here's the thing. Nascimento has finished nobody good. You could argue he's not beaten anyone good. Like his best win is what? Ilar Latifi, I guess? But like outside of rear naked choking Dontel Mays, which, means something. Before that, you're looking at Michel Martinac, you're looking at Everton Dos Santos, Fabio Morea, who was 1-4 coming into that fight, Fabricio Nascimento, who was debuting, Ricardo Giordano, who was 1-0, Rafael Cayexta? I don't know how to say that name, I apologize. He was 1-0, and a guy who doesn't even have a Tapology page in Sincero Augusto. In fact, neither does so he had not beaten anyone. I guess you could argue, hang on, 7-1, Michel Martin. Oh my God. So Martinek was the first guy to get finished by Nascimento, but since it has been finished by Daniel James, Dennis Olderov, and Darko Stosic. So yeah, no, that's not a great high watermark. And the other person that might be worth anything is Everton Dos Santos, who was 4-1 and never fought after that. Also was a lightweight. So, yeah. So that was a bit weird. That was a bit of like bad commentary work. I understand it. You're trying to hype this fight. And at the end, they were trying to hype Derek Lewis. Usenko again being like, this is peak Derek Lewis. This is, I'm a believer. No. This is Derek Lewis, the same Derek Lewis he's always been. He's going to knock people out. He's going to do fun things. But he is, generally speaking, going to give everyone the ability to beat him if they can just pass the physicality test. And I didn't think Nascimento would. And at points he did. But in the end, he crumbled, got knocked out. We did get the pants down. We did get the cup throw into the media section. We got all the Derek Lewis post-fight festivities. I want to see him fight Jairzinho Rosenstruck. I've been asking for that fight for a long time. I don't know why it hasn't been made. It really makes a ton of sense for both guys. It could main event in Apex, because we know they love heavyweight fights main eventing Apexes. We know we love those. And for Nascimento, I've got Waldo Cortez Acosta because they're both kind of very, very similar in the sense that they, for the shallowness of their games, they make reasonably good decisions. They're reasonably durable, reasonably athletic, and I don't have anything else to do with them. That's about it. They're both like on the cusp of ranking, so it makes sense that way too. Joaquin Buckley versus New Sultan Ruziboev. This was a fight that watching it, you really get caught up in it because this was the crowd made this fight. The crowd, even with the USA chants, which I do not like, but like the energy of the crowd, the obvious support they had for Joaquin Buckley, it made up for the fact that realistically, this fight was a lot of takedowns for Buckley without a lot of like result. He would get a takedown. He would not be super active on top. He could get the barrier basically at will. Ruziboev would usually be able to get up and periodically would threaten a submission from bottom. So that was about it. I mean, the first round of this fight, I think, has like less than 20 significant strikes in it. Yeah. 15, 22, and then the third round finally got some action. I did have Buckley winning, obviously. I gave Ruziboev the first round. I thought he clipped Buckley enough that he had the biggest moment of the round, but you could easily give that to Buckley as well. Second and third round, there's really no question. Buckley was getting takedowns. Buckley was getting top control. Buckley was outlanding him. Buckley was landing at least as hard as Ruziboev was. And Ruziboev was just basically trying to set on a right straight counter, like repetitively. And Buckley knew it was coming and was able to deal with it. Again, it's kind of weird. The actual skill set of Buckley is really weird. It's bizarrely shallow. Despite the fact that it's clear that he and his team, or his team and not him, I don't know what the combination is, but there is clearly like really, really good game planning and really good recognition of what the opponent is going to do. It's just kind of weird that he still doesn't have what I would call a well-rounded, deep game, which you would think you would get with a relatively, seemingly good coaching environment, for one, and for two, seemingly a relatively smart fighter. It's very, very weird. Anyways, for Buckley, I've got MVP because that would be a fun fight. For Ruziboev, I've got Muslim Salikov. I guess it would be a fun fight. I'm not a big fan of Ruziboev, and I never really have been. Like, his issue is like he is difficult for anyone because he's 6'5", which is insane at middleweight or at welterweight. We're going to talk about another 6'5" guy later for very, very similar reasons. But he's not very good. He's not a very good striker. He's not he's a particularly porous defensive wrestler. He's not really a good ground guy. Like, his submissions, they make a big deal about them. And they should, because they're cool. But there are a lot of like very meme submissions and very like overmatched opponents who just can't compete with him, like in general. And that's how he beats them. So there you go. We'll go with Salikov, but I don't know. Could be interesting. Menifield Dahlberg, we already talked about. Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Mateusz Rombetsky. Rombetsky was really, really strong at the beginning. I thought he was looking really good with head movement. Defensive striking was looking better, but like he was getting pieced up. He's very much a power striker who is a bully pressure guy who, when he realized he couldn't really get takedowns, really couldn't control CDF, was really having problems because it would go to the ground, and Rombetsky even dropped Carlos Diego Ferreira once, but Carlos Diego Ferreira would work the butterfly hooks, push him up, get better positions, out-scramble him, show him who the better grappler is, and Rombetsky started to run out of gas, which is something I've always been worried about because I feel like he always fades in his fights. He hasn't had that like horrible gassing moment or anything like that yet, at least not that I've seen. I mean, it's possible that it's happened in a fight I haven't, but he's he was 19-1 coming into this fight. His only loss being to way back in the day, Pavel Kilik, something like that. Anyways, but I always think that he fades a little bit because he is a huge dude, and also he's all fast twitch muscle fiber, which ironically I thought that his striking game looked better, but actually worse for him. Now, if you'll give me a moment here, it's because he was very, very feint heavy in the early going, which is a lot of like tension in the muscles and tuning up, and I think that will deplete a gas tank that is already questionable. So while I applaud the increased game, the attempt to become a better boxer, I don't know if he's really going about it the right way. So that's an interesting idea to think about. But anyways, I had it around a pace heading into the third round, and in third round, Rombetsky is eyes are swollen up, which, by the way, Gary Copeland called for the doctor to check out in the second round, which Michael Bisping gave him a hard time for. I find myself a little bit more defensive of Gary Copeland. I don't know. I think he's just a referee that gets picked on like a lot. And it's not that he doesn't make mistakes. He's human. He's not a particularly good referee. But I feel like social media and the MMA community as a whole really comes down on him really hard. I don't know why. But anyways, he called the doctor in to check the cuts. That didn't last for long. Doctor was like, yeah, keep it going. So it was a bit of a bad stoppage. And in the third round, we end up with Carlos Diego Ferreira taking him down with 30 seconds to go. Gets right to mount, starts getting ground and pounding him. It wasn't the greatest ground and pound in the world. It probably actually wasn't even the best ground and pound of the fight. But I totally get the stoppage because Rombetsky was clearly exhausted. Wasn't really doing much. intelligently defense, all that thing. You don't have to be killing the guy to get a stoppage. And Carlos Diego Ferreira gets the win. I've got him against Benoit Saint Denis because people still think Benoit Saint Denis is a big, prospect. I don't. And Rebetsky I've got against Muktapik Oralbai, which I think would just be a fun fight between two powerhouse dudes. Alex Caceres, like I said, kind of just fought Sean Woodson's fight. I still did score it for him. I scored the second and the third round for Alex Caceres. If we check out the numbers here real quick, Woodson did outland him overall. He did outland him even in the third round, which I did score for him. Second round, Caceres did outland him. But I just thought that the more meaningful shots down the stretch in the second and third round when Woodson got tired started coming from Caceres. Again, frustrating to see him not do the thing. What were the scorecards on this one? I'd be interested to know. Judge Henry Geary scored all 3 rounds for Woodson, and judges Brian Pasillo and Sal D'Amato gave the first and the third to Woodson, which would make sense. So they were the rounds that he outlanded him in. I'm not even particularly annoyed by the 30-27. Like I said, this was a fight that had one obvious round, Woodson winning the first round, and 2 very close second and third rounds that could have gone either way. I happened to give them to Caceres. I also picked Caceres, so, rose tinted glasses and all. Maybe that's part of the equation. I also really do not like Sean Woodson. But at the end of the day, Caceres, for large stretches, just kind of let Woodson fight his game. And when he pressed him, it worked. When he turned up the volume, it worked. Had he been able to do that more, it would have been better. But there were various points where he just would put it to the fence, get a clinch, and then just step back. And there was no real concentrated takedown attempt, which I think everyone should do against Woodson. So Caceres threw this fight away, and that's what he does. Serves me right for picking him. Woodson I've got against Joe Anderson Brito, and Caceres I've got against Charles Jourdain. Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Robelis Despain. This was basically the same round 3 times over. Despain would start off doing something wild and wacky. He'd get taken down, and then he couldn't get up. Now, this fight was crapped on by like Dana White and stuff. I don't even think it was that bad of a fight. Like for heavyweights, this wasn't bad. This was just Despain being exposed for, to be honest, what we already knew he was. So exposed is probably not the right word. Confirmed, maybe that's the word. As a guy who just isn't very good. Like he is physically destructive, 6'7" and all, and 87-inch reach and everything, and he will knock out much better fighters than him. Probably at some point. Like I honestly believe Josh Parisian is a better fighter than him, and he knocked him out. But that's kind of it, is that there's not really a structure to his game. He's got some nice kicks, but like he holds his hands low. His boxing is quite poor. And if he doesn't knock you out in that first, storm, I don't really know how he wins. And this fight was that. He didn't gas out terribly bad. His cardio held up reasonably okay. But if Waldo Cortez Acosta can look like an ADCC like champ against you by just taking you down and nullifying everything you want to do, and even almost getting an Americana, it doesn't say great things. I've got Waldo Cortez Acosta against Rodrigo Nascimento, like I said, and I've got basically Despain against some scrub. Don't get me wrong. I sound like I'm like hating on Despain. He's fun. I want to see him fight. It's just, I am very aware that the level of fighter that he is going to beat past like the first minute of a fight is very limited. That's all. Chase Hooper looked like $1 million against Vyacheslav Borshev. I mean, even on the feet, like he knocked him down the first round with an overhead right. You gotta be kidding me. He landed some significant ground and pound, was going for some submissions, had great positions. Borshev scrambled okay, but it has to be said, man, what is Alpha Male doing with this guy? What are they doing? Because he's still, like every other fight he'd had where he would get out wrestled, I was reasonably understanding, I thought, because he had gotten beaten by like Nazim Sadikov, or a majority draw against Nazim Sadikov, but like got taken down a bunch. Very physical fighter. Mike Davis, very physical fighter. Mark D. Casey, very physical fighter. So it was like, all right, these makes sense. But I know that I'm probably overrating or underrating Chase Hooper. Somewhat similar to what I do with a couple other BJJ fighters as well. But like, he's not that physical. He's striking is pretty bad, and he's not a great takedown artist, but he just basically manhandled Borshow here. And he's a former featherweight. It's just very, very weird. Anyways, the end came with a Darce choke locked in for Hooper in the second round. Near the end of it, I want to say. No, okay, 3 minutes left. 3 minutes into the second round. So yeah, 2 minutes left. So not quite as late as I was thinking. I was thinking it was about a minute later than that. But he ends up in a Darce choke, and there's a single tap that may have been a flail or something for Borshow, perhaps, but I have no issue with that being the end of the fight, because we watched like 10-8 rounds here, and yeah, Hooper got the W. Hooper versus Jim Miller would be a great fight. Borshow versus Narulo Aliyev. I think I called for that before, so make that happen. And then we had a really, really, really quick knockout of Esteban Ribovic head kicking Terrence McKinney and getting the job done. I don't know what that proves about Ribovic, really. Like, I've said this. Like, I don't dislike Ribovic. I just don't think he's necessarily all that good. Like, I think he's a really, really good action fighter. He's exciting. He is not incompetent in any way. So, and a decent enough athlete that he can do some things. So, like, nice to see him get the win here. But it was kind of McKinney getting knocked out. We've seen that a bunch. So I've got Fares Ziam next for Ribovic, and I've got Manuel Torres next for Terrence McKinney, because they are both insane, and hopefully that would be a really, really good fight. Tisha Torres, now Tisha Pennington versus Tabitha Ricci. I had Torres winning all 3 rounds. The first round was very clearly hers. She outlanded Ricci in all 3 rounds. Hang on, let's see here. Let's refer to the stats. They don't always tell the tale, but like, I think Pennington was also hitting her harder. 42-25, 15-10, 23-19 in terms of significant strikes, all in favor of Pennington. She was outlanded by Ricci in the second and the third round in total strikes, but they were like very, very short strikes. It didn't really do much. Yes, it was like 5 minutes of clinch control, but there were no takedowns. Ricci had one in the first round. Ironically, right at the end of the first round, she got her only takedown, and then she went 0 for 7 the rest of the way. I thought Pennington won this fight. She outworked her. She had more damage done, and I don't know. Like I understand that I've been wrong on a lot of Tabitha Ricci fights. I have like a really terrible record when picking her, but normally I watch the fights and I'm not really questioning it. I can't think of another fight of hers that I like really, 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 really dislike the actual result of. Let me see here. Let me pull this up real quick. Yeah, I thought she cleanly beat Jillian Robertson, Jessica Penne, obviously. I thought there was maybe an argument that she should lose to Polyana Viana. I haven't watched that fight in a long, long time because Polyana Viana is so formless that it's not predictive. But like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm looking at the numbers here, and like, yeah, there's 5 takedowns out of 10, and a lot of top control, 9 minutes and a half of the fight, but like, not a lot done with it. And Viana was more active from bottom and landed the harder strike. So I guess maybe there's that one. But like the Maria Oliveira fight, I scored for her without an issue. So normally it's not like that it poisons my viewing of Ricci fights. I just think that the problems to solve her are like there for a lot of people. But I thought she lost this fight. I really thought Pennington won this fight. And it's not just my unreasonable fandom of Tisha Pennington. It's also just there in the numbers. She landed the cleaner strikes, she landed the harder shots, and she shut down the takedown game. So I don't get it. We're not supposed to reward clinching control. We're not supposed to reward control, period, unless the fight is really, really without action. And the judges did that here. I don't understand. I don't get it. Anyways, Ricci versus Mackenzie Dern, and Pennington versus Yasmin Howergui. By the way, Pennington Howergui would be a dope fight. Trey Waters versus Billy Goff. I thought this was an insane fight. Again, I don't have a lot of like faith in either of these fighters. Very, 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 very little. Very little. But they are entertaining as all hell. Waters was lighting Goff up coming in. Goff was pressuring, trying to get takedowns, trying to do his thing. Although, again, 1 for 12 on takedowns. He's not a great wrestler. And he did outland Waters in all 3 rounds by the looks of it. Oh, not the first. Not the first. Okay, so rounds 2 and 3, Goff outlanded him, but they didn't have the impact that Waters was having. Waters was landing very, very clean. Waters did run out of gas, and I don't think that that's a solvable problem for him. I think that's just the nature of being a 6'5" welterweight. Like it's a heck of a weight cut, and I don't really know why he doesn't go to 185. Just feels like cutting 15 less pounds, and who knows, maybe even doing like a little strength and conditioning training would really fix a lot of things for him. But Goff just kept running into like punches, and it was exciting. It was fun. Waters versus Matthew Semmelsberger, and Goff versus any action dude. Really, I just think he's hard capped. Like I'm going to enjoy watching him fight whoever you put him up against. I think I referred to him while I was watching this as Chris Lieben without fight IQ, but there's not enough size there. There's not enough athleticism. Jake Hadley versus Charles Johnson went largely kind of like what I thought it would. That at the end of the day, Hadley would have a hard time with takedowns, and he would have and his striking game isn't all that effective, and he's not a particularly amazing athlete. I'm kind of interested what were the numbers in this one. Yeah, Johnson outlanded him 7-48, had a knockdown in the second round as well. I had him winning the second and the third round. I gave Hadley the first, but it was very, 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 very close. But yeah, Johnson just outworked him in every round, landed the damaging shots, and shut down the takedown game. 0 for 11 for Hadley. That was kind of the name of the day. I think this might have had like more stuffed takedowns per fight than most cards we see. So next up for Johnson, I have David Dvorak. I have Hadley versus Jesus Aguilar. And then Veronica Hardy versus JJ Aldridge. Scored the first and the second for Hardy. Scored the third for Aldridge. Aldridge just never really got going. Like there wasn't any real, there wasn't effective cage craft here. There was a lot of like sitting on counters that were not really there. Hardy being very, very quick. I've never questioned the physicality of Veronica Hardy. I just question the game of hers. It's a very weird grab bag game that doesn't really focus on anything. Like it's got a little bit of everything that you would want, but not enough of anything to really make it work. But hey, she got the W here, and I think she's on a 3-fight winning streak, if I'm not mistaken. It's not against the highest level of competition, to be clear. It's JJ Aldridge, Jamie Lynn Horth, and Juliana Miller, but you know what? I can't really say much because I picked her to lose all 3 of those fights. So there you go. What were the scores here? 1 and 2 to Hardy, 3 to Aldridge across the board. I would agree with that. She had the meaningful strikes. Aldridge's problem is also that like her forehead seems to swell up really, really easily, and her nose busts up very easily. Like I've seen her bust up over like really limited shots. So that could be a large problem. And of course, she's just lacking physicality. It showed up when she was clinching with Hardy. She could not get her down for love nor money. Hardy I've got against Casey O'Neill, and I've got Aldridge against KGB Lee if she's still around. I think I remember something about KG Lee being cut, but maybe I'm wrong. Or like fighting out her contract or something along those lines that she might be a free agent. The winner of Agapova versus Luana Santos would also be an option. By the way, man, Maria Agapova is still around? That's insane. Talk about a head case. Talk about a psycho head case. Anyways, it was a pretty good card. I will be back. I might actually be back like tomorrow with predictions for the upcoming UFC card. Also, Bellator Championship Series. Anything good on the Bellator Championship Series? Patchy Mitch versus Magomedov. Cedric Doumbé versus Jaleel Willis. Gregory Babin versus Costello Van Steenis. Yves Landau versus Jonas Bilharino. I think that's how that's said. Hey, Archie Colgan. I actually do think Archie Colgan's quite good, but he's fighting T-Ball Goatee, who I don't think is particularly good. He's a glass cannon. Slim Trabelski versus Louis Sutherland. Mansoor Barnoui versus Yusuke Yachi. And then we have, man, I don't think I've ever seen this name before. I'll try it though. Iman Shafi Aliyev versus Mike Shipman. And Aspen Ladd versus Ekaterina Shakalova. Is she the super? Yeah, she is who I'm thinking about. The 5'2" featherweight, which is insane. That's a fight of two people that really shouldn't be fighting at that weight class. That's just all there is to it. And Ashel Ajud versus Bruno Fontes. There is no single fight that I'm looking forward to a ton there, but there's some okay stuff. Like I enjoy Patchy Mix, and Magomedov is not a bad fighter. Cedric Doumbé is an exciting prospect, obviously. And then you have, I've always thought Costello Vanstinas is pretty decent. And Archie Colgan, like I said, is a good prospect. So is, people keep saying Slim Trabelski is, and I guess he is because it's heavyweight. But I don't know. I've not ever really dug it myself. But we'll see. Maybe that'll be fun. I might add some select picks for that card into my predictions. They're going to be a little bit rushed, so I think I'll be skipping it. Honestly, it's probably just going to end up being the UFC Barboza versus Murphy fight night. Which, by the way, Lerone Murphy as a fight night headliner, very weird. 13-0-1 though, like it's well earned. It's just I don't know. There's just seems like there's never really been that kind of hype around him. But hey, that's good. That's a cool fight. Chaos Williams versus Carlston Harris. Ramiz Brahima versus Themba Garimbo. Oh, God, that's on the main card. Adrian Yanez versus Vinicius Salvador. That's on the main card as well. Oh, boy. Angela Hill versus Leona Pinheiro. That's a good fight. Tom Nolan, Victor Martinez. Omar C versus Tuco Tucas. That's a fun name. Tamiris Vidal versus Melissa. Hey, Melissa Gatto going up to bantamweight. Interesting. This could also just be a short notice thing because she was booked 2 months ago against Victoria Dudukova, and then Dudukova didn't make the fight. So there is that. Pierre Rodriguez versus Ariane Cardelosi. Good to see Cardelosi back. Ebus Magomedov versus Warley Alves. Elatang Hailey versus Clayton Rodriguez. Emily Ducote versus Vanessa Demopoulos. Not terrible. Not terrible at all. C is on his third different opponent. That's weird. He was going to fight prior to fighting Tuco Tucas. He was going to fight Anatoly Tricoli and Rodolfo Bellato, which is interesting. Which one's Tricolo again? Okay, he's not somebody I know. There must be someone with like a similar last name. I'm not recognizing him at all. Anyways, check out the links down below. Social medias, video game stuff, and hopefully tonight I'll be going live with Super Mega Baseball Franchise Mode. Although, spoiler for anyone who's planning to watch that tonight, Super Mega Baseball is not working right now. And I'm very, very nervous about that.